Hi everybody, welcome back. Good to see so many regulars in the crowd. Happy Wednesday, if it's Wednesday where you guys are. I hope you're doing well. I see some new names in the chat there too. This is cool. If it's your first time, welcome. If you were here last week and the week before that, welcome back. And yeah, I'm getting lots of birthday love in the chat, which is nice. It is my birthday. Thank you. Thank you very much for all your birthday messages. That's really nice. So it's Wednesday here. As I said, I hope you guys are well. As you can see, Lane is back in the chat. Our friendly moderator is back to take care of you and to get your questions to me as much as he can. Okay, so if you have questions or comments during the lesson, just put it in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can, as often as we can, as well as we can. Of course, we've got Karim in there as well, who can help us with some of the questions. All right, and I guess I also should have said, hi, I'm Shaun, I'm your teacher, okay? If this is your first time here, welcome. Yeah, lots of still birthday wishes coming in. Yada's back, Paul's here, good. Azim, so many people. Rosa's here. Selma, so many people. Good to see you. Okay, so let's get rolling here. It is my special day. It's my birthday, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to. I'm going to make you work today. Still, yeah. I'm going to take it easy, but you guys are going to have to do some work for me. Okay, for my birthday. So let's jump into the lesson here. There we go. Okay, so today I'm going to start with spice, flavor. All right, this is what we're going to talk about today. We're not talking about cooking so much. I will try not to torture you too much with talk of food. But today we're going to be talking about, well, not really spice and flavor, but we're going to be talking about style and taking your use of the language up a level here. Okay, so what we're talking about is oftentimes in this class, in any language course, we focus on functional language. We focus on the grammar, right? The grammar you need in order to make sure your sentences are correct grammatically. So you're not making mistakes, right? So that you can express yourself clearly, make sure you're making sense, that kind of thing, right? Is understanding how the language works, which obviously this is important, okay? But you have to understand that at a certain point in time with your English studies, you have to go beyond just the grammatically correct use of the language, right? If you only focus on how to avoid making mistakes, of course that's important, but you'll only get so high, okay? And your language will kind of plateau a little bit. And in this class, I'm always talking to you guys about showing your range, right? Using different sentence structures and trying different things to show the different ways that you can use the language. And that's what we're focusing on in today's class, is adding a little bit of flavor to your use of the language. Not just talking about functional language, going beyond, is my language functional, or can you understand me, okay? And asking the question, spice it up, says Paul, exactly. Let's spice things up a bit here, yeah? Are your sentences interesting, okay? Are you making strong statements, okay? And this is what we're going to focus on today, making strong statements, avoiding kind of that boring, bland use of the language that obviously it happens when you're learning, but we're going to try to push you a little bit today, okay? So some of this stuff might be completely new for some of you. I know that usually when I teach this lesson, it blows some minds for some people, okay? But that's why I'm here, okay? I'm here to blow your mind today. All right, so white bread. This is what I'm talking about. There's nothing wrong with white bread, all right? It's fine. If you eat it, it will keep you alive for a certain amount of time, right? But if you're just eating slice after slice of this bread, it's going to get boring, and at some point you're going to have to go beyond white bread, all right? So I want to take you from white bread, and I want to get you, put some butter on that. Although, honestly, I don't really like the look of that butter. It's a little bit too yellow, I think, and a little bit too much butter, right? But take that white bread, put something on it, maybe put some Nutella on it, make a sandwich out of it, make something delicious out of that white bread, okay? And don't worry about just the grammar, but again, focusing on your range of vocabulary, your range of structures, and as Paul said in the chat, spicing it up. Yeah, making your language interesting is what we're focusing on. So, I said let's talk about making strong statements. And the question obviously is, how do I make a strong statement? Now, when you think about student essays, assignments for school, or presentations, even in speech, when you have to stand up in front of a group of students and speak in English, again, oftentimes the focus is the grammar. And you may have sentences that are grammatically correct, but they might be a little bit boring. Okay, so how do you make them strong? Okay, so our focus for today is on emphasis, making strong statements. Emphasis is a noun. Emphasize is the verb, right? How to make something strong, how to stress something, okay? And the adjective is emphatic, okay? So I'm showing you these three words because I'm probably going to be saying them a lot in the lesson today. We're talking about bold statements, strong statements, emphasizing, making emphatic statements, okay? And again, when do you want to do this? Well, at the beginning of an essay, you want to grab someone's attention. At the end of an essay, you want to leave the reader with something to think about. If you have to write a story, a narrative for a homework assignment, you want your story to be engaging and interesting. If you're standing in front of a group of people, you want to keep their attention, so you want to make these strong statements. So let's talk about that. Oh, wow. Wow, so beautiful. All right. What a beautiful sunset. In fact, I had never seen such a beautiful sunset before. Now this sentence, it's fine. Now Selma is saying that today's class seems complicated. Well, it's a little bit complicated, but you guys will be fine, okay? We're going to hold hands together and we're going to walk into this ocean together. Be strong, Paul says. Yes. So, this sentence, I had never seen such a beautiful sunset before. This is a fine sentence. There's nothing wrong with it. It's grammatical. It's fine. But let's think of ways to try to make this sentence even stronger, okay? Even more emphatic, as I said. So in speech, usually when I ask this question in class, the first answer I get is the student who says, I had never, ever seen such a beautiful sunset before. So obviously that does make it stronger, right? I had never, ever, 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 ever seen such a beautiful sunset before, ever, right? You throw evers in there, and that's fine when you're talking conversationally. Don't put that many evers in there, though. One is fine, okay? But we're talking today about writing. So how do you take this sentence and just switch it up a little bit to make it more emphatic? Okay, Paul likes the sunset. Okay, good. Let me show you this. I'm going to do a little magic trick with the word order here. Check it out. I'm going to change this sentence. Okay. Never before had I seen such a beautiful sunset. Now, what's going on with this sentence? Sometimes when I put a sentence like this up on the screen or on the board, students get surprised and confused by it, because what's happening here? If you look at this sentence, you've got that helping verb, had, and then the subject I. You've got this flipped order of the helping verb and the subject, much like you would see in a question, right? Usually you only see that kind of flipped order in questions, right? Like, can you swim? Or may I help you? But in this case, in this sentence, this is not a question. This is a statement. This is a strong statement, okay? Now, what we're talking about today is how you can sometimes begin a sentence with an adverb, like never, and then you can flip, you can flip the order of the helping verb around, and you can make a stronger statement. And this is what we're calling inversion. Now, Paul, you're saying no comma? Well, that's a good question. We'll come to that. And yeah, keep those questions coming, and Lane will send them to me, okay? So what we're talking about today is inversion, all right, which is a very specific sentence structure that adds spice and flavor and emphasis to your sentences. Something you don't want to use all the time. You probably are not going to use it very often in casual conversation, but in academic writing, writing assignments and presentations, it is a useful structure, okay? Oftentimes, you may also hear people refer to it as negative inversion, all right? And this is what we're going to talk about. Abdo asks the question, can we omit the word before? Yeah, right. Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that later too, that never before had I or never had I. Either one is perfect, Abdo. Thank you for that. Good question. So what we're talking about, as I said, is inversion, which means it's a style choice. You never have to use this sentence structure, but you will see it when you read, okay? So if you understand what we're talking about today, will also help you with your reading skills as well. But it's a style choice. And as I said, it's in a change of word order where you invert or you flip the helping verb and the subject like you would in a question, but it's not a question, it's a statement. It's a strong statement, okay? Question, Baskoa, grammatically, isn't it wrong, this kind of sentence? No, and that's a good question, and that's exactly what we're talking about, is that this is not incorrect. This is perfectly correct, and it's an advanced sentence structure, I'll say that, okay? But it is absolutely correct. All right, good question. So, the adverbs that we often use for this are what we consider negative adverbs or limiting adverbs, adverbs that restrict the verb or the sentence, okay? These, like never, rarely, seldom, barely, scarcely, hardly, which many of them have very similar meanings, meaning not or almost not, right? Never or almost never. And these negative adverbs can be used with this inverted order to add emphasis. Okay, so this is the structure, okay? You start with the adverb, never or rarely or hardly. Then you move on to the helping verb, that auxiliary verb, or sometimes the modal, right? And then the subject, like this. Let me show you a bunch of examples here. Never have I, never will I, never would it, never could they. Many different things that you can express in this way. And as Abdo asked about the word before, you can sometimes insert little things in here like never before have I, or never again will I, or never in my life have I, and then you can continue the sentence, okay? Never in my life have I been so embarrassed, for example. Not me now, I'm fine, but as an example, okay? Never again will I go back to that restaurant, that kind of stuff. All right. So Paul's getting another question in here. He's saying, you're flipping to put more emphasis on the second part of the statement. Yeah, okay, well that's a good question, Paul. We'll get to that in a minute, okay? Let me show you some examples and then we'll talk about that. That's a good question. Okay, so burning house. Here's my sentence. We had scarcely escaped the burning house when it was completely engulfed in flames. Okay, so in this case, there's no inversion in the sentence. This is your standard word order, a complex sentence with two clauses. All right, but what I'm going to do to add emphasis, I'm going to play around with the order at the beginning of that main clause, not the dependent clause, but the main clause. Okay, so we had scarcely. And scarcely means kind of like almost just, okay? Like so. Scarcely had we escaped the burning house when it was completely engulfed in flames. Engulfed means to be completely overtaken by fire, okay? Rose is asking, can we use inverted sentences as topic sentences? Possibly, yeah. Yeah, that's possible, Rosa, yep. Kaio is asking, scarcely had we. You might have to clarify that question a little bit for me, Kaio, okay? Yeah, it's past perfect, right? Had we escaped, so had and escaped together is maybe what you're looking at. So scarcely had we escaped the burning house when it was completely engulfed in flames, meaning we almost didn't get out, okay? So what we're doing here, again, you've got the adverb at the beginning, then you're inverting the helping verb. You'll see that the main verb is escaped, okay? Had is your helping verb. And that will emphasize. Now, Paul's question about what you're emphasizing, really, I would say you're kind of emphasizing the relationship, in this case, between the two ideas, right? Basically you're saying, I almost died, right? I escaped the house and then it immediately was on fire. So you're kind of, in this case, emphasizing both, I would say. Okay, so let me show you another example, a happier example maybe. Okay, and again, a question about the comma. Okay, let's go back here because two people have asked questions about commas already, which is good. You're keeping me on my toes here. Scarcely had we escaped the burning house when, I wouldn't use a comma in this case, no, because your dependent clause is at the end anyway, okay? Typically speaking, if we start a sentence with the main clause and then put the dependent clause at the end, you're not going to be using any commas there. That's a general rule. Obviously, there are going to be exceptions to that. Okay? So let me show you another example. He rarely spent time away from his family. He loved his family, always wanted to be with his family. That's lovely. He's a family man. Okay, so again, this sentence is fine, but you may see it, or you may want to try this, where you take the beginning of the sentence and you flip it around, okay, like this. Rarely did he spend time away from his family, right? So again, you're starting with this negative or limiting adverb, rarely, and then you're following it with the helping verb. But you'll notice this one thing. Now, in the original sentence, let me go back here. The original sentence, he rarely spent time away from his family. There's no helping verb there, right? This is just a statement with one main verb. He spent, okay? Now, the question is, what do you do with inversion if there's no helping verb? Well, it's the same thing as if you ask a question, right? How do you make a question if there's no helping verb? Well, usually you would use the verb do, right? So if you say, I can swim, the question is, can you swim, right? Or can I swim? But if the sentence is, I like, the question would be, do you like? Okay, so it's the same thing. With inversion, rarely did he spend time away from his family. Yeah, so you have to put that do in there, but you have to make sure that you're paying attention to the tense, right? Now you'll notice that in the original sentence, spent was in the past tense. Because I've put the verb do in there, did, then I have to change the conjugation of spent to spend. Again, just like you do in a question. If you guys know how to write questions, then you know how to do inversion, basically. Okay? So let's look at a few tips about inversion, okay? Inversion tips. Number one, remember that in most cases the meaning is negative, okay? And what I mean by that is these adverbs of frequency, like sometimes, always, and often, you can't use those with negative inversion or with inversion, okay? Sometimes did I go to the movies? It doesn't work, okay? It has to be never or seldom or rarely, okay? Also, use do if there's no helping verb, like we said. Okay. Watch your tense. Always make sure that if you're inverting it around and you're using, for example, the verb do, that you may have to change the tense or conjugation of your main verb. Okay, and watch out for double negatives, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. But it means that don't use the word not with the word never. So you can never say, never did I not attend Shaun's class. Okay, but again, we'll look at some examples of this. Usually, I find with this kind of stuff, with my students in class, it's better to throw you in to it and make you try to play with it a little bit and see how you're doing, because this is actually just the beginning. We're going to get more complicated here in a couple minutes. So let's see how you guys feel about this first part of inversion. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put 3 sentences up here. And I'm asking you to rewrite the sentences with inversion. So just play with the word order a little bit and see if you can rewrite these sentences to make them strong statements. Okay, so technology has never been more important for people's social lives. The lesson had barely started when Shaun put the students to work, and sharks of that size are rarely seen in this region. So, as usual, I'm going to pop out of here, okay, and I'm going to put the music on, and I'm going to dance a little, and you guys can get to work. I'm not sharing a document today. There's no document, so you can just, I'm going to keep this on the screen, and you can write your answers directly into the chat, and then we'll go over it together. Okay, guys? So, rewrite these sentences, flip them around a little bit, invert them, and make them stronger. Lane's in there saying get to work. So, yeah, he's the boss. Get to work, and I'm going to pop out. All right, I'm back so fast because you guys are crushing it here. I'm looking at the chat, and you guys are, yeah, you're nailing it. So let's go over this together. Maybe I will pop out here and put this stuff on the screen so that we can go over it together. So technology has never been more important for people's social lives. A whole bunch of answers came in. I think Marianne's was first, so I'm just going to change that a little bit, and said never has technology been, right? Never has technology been more important for people's social lives. And that's great. Now, a bunch of other people got the same answer. Really good work, guys. Okay, and the one thing I did notice, I think I saw maybe Valerie put been over here, like never has been technology. But in this case, you got to remember that been is the main verb here. Okay, like technology is. So you want the helping verb on this side and your main verb on this side, Valerie, okay? That's good. That's a good example of a common mistake that I see with inversion, and that's really good. And again, if you look at this sentence, I mean, if you read it out, it sounds like the beginning of a speech, right? It sounds like I'm at a TED Talk or something, right? Never has technology been more important for people's social lives. It's this emphatic structure that really adds a little bit of flavor to our sentences, and this is really good, guys, okay? So let me scroll up. This is good. Okay, and oh, Bruno's here. Another student admitting to showing up late. That's all right, Bruno. Better late than never. So, number 2, we said the lesson had barely started when Shaun put the students to work. And Chateau 7, what did you do? I think you put this over here, right? You said barely had the lesson started. All right, barely had the lesson started when Shaun, and I believe you, Chateau 7 said, Shaun, the master of popping out. So I am. I'm the master of disappearing, right? And I'll disappear again in a couple minutes. So you got the right answer there from Chateau 7. A lot of other people nailed this one too. I saw Yara, you got it. Raphael, you nailed it too, right? This barely had the lesson started, meaning the lesson started and immediately, of course, Shaun made you guys work. Now, I think somebody in the chat asked, why did we use had instead of has? Really, to answer that question, it's just that the whole sentence is in the past tense, right? It's hard to tell because put is a irregular verb, so it's hard to tell there that that's a past tense, except for that if it was present tense, because it's Shaun, if it was present, you would need that S there, right? Shaun puts the students to work. So that's past tense. So this action we put in the past perfect to push it further back into the past, okay? Good question. And again, for this last one, you guys nailed this one too. I'm starting off easy, and maybe I'll try to challenge you guys a little bit more. You guys, I think you're ready for the challenge. So sharks of that size are rarely seen in this region. Mona Dream says, rarely sharks of that size are... Oh, okay, so you almost got it. Mona Dream. You took this over here, right? And you said rarely, and then you put sharks here. Rarely sharks of that size are seen, but remember that you need this guy over here. Okay, so rarely are sharks of that size seen in this region. Now, it's a little bit more challenging because I threw that prepositional phrase in there, but remember a couple weeks ago we were talking about modifiers. You can't take that prepositional phrase away from shark because it's describing shark, right? So you're going to have to split the helping verb, right, and the main verb and put sharks of that size in the middle, because this is passive voice, right? Okay. Yeah, you guys are nailing it here. Good. Okay, so let's get trickier. Yeah, let me challenge you a little bit more, hopefully. Okay. So we talked about adverbs that limit ideas, that restrict them. But one adverb that's similar that we didn't mention or haven't mentioned yet is only. Okay? Now, only obviously is an adverb that limits an idea. And you can use this in a couple different ways with inversion. Okay? So, the first way that we can use only with this inverted word order is only plus a dependent clause and then the main clause with the inversion in it. Okay? So you can start a question, or a sentence rather, with only if, or only when, or only after, right? Only if it rains, or only when you apologize, for example. And then you follow it with a main clause with inversion. Let me show you an example here. Uh-oh. This is another one of my photos of young couples fighting. Yeah? Trouble in paradise. Only after he apologizes will she speak to him again. Now this is a good example because here's a different auxiliary verb that we're using. Now we're talking about the future and kind of a condition, right? So you've got only at the beginning, then your dependent clause, just like any other complex sentence, right? Only after he apologizes, there it is there, and then will she, that's the inverted order, right? Okay, so that's the helping verb coming before the subject of the main clause. You'll notice that the order of the dependent clause does not change. Don't put two inversions in one sentence, okay? Don't be doing that. Yeah, stick to one. And don't do it in the dependent clause, all right? So the way I think that you would normally say this would be, she will speak to him again only after he apologizes. And again, that second sentence there's nothing wrong with that. That's great, okay? But this is two different ways of saying the same thing. The first one being, as I said before, a little bit more emphatic, okay? Stronger. Let me show you another example. There he is, Barack Obama. Okay. It's the only politician picture I can find, I guess. Only if we work together can we solve the nation's problems. Now again, this is a good example of you use negative inversion and you immediately sound like a politician, right? Okay, so let's take a look at this sentence. Again, starting with only, then your dependent clause, only if we work together, and then can we, there's your inversion there, and the rest of the main clause, okay? So we can only solve the nation's problems if we work together. Okay, so a question coming in from Valerie says, please to clarify the idea. Auxiliary, adverb, auxiliary, noun, verb in past participle. Okay, never has, yeah, no, that's right, Valerie, that's right. That's the order that we've been looking at so far. So the adverb, and then the auxiliary verb, subject, and then the main verb comes after that. Okay, now obviously, Valerie, that is more about that first structure. This is a little bit different because now, as you can see, the adverb is on the dependent clause at the beginning, and here we've got the inversion in the main clause. So this structure is a little bit different from the first one, okay? But the same basic concept that you're only inverting the helping verb and the subject, not the main verb, okay? Just like you don't invert the main verb in a question, right? All right, good questions. All right. The other thing you can do with only, so you got only plus a clause, and here you've got only plus a prepositional phrase, which again, if you have attended these lessons before, you've heard me talk about prepositional phrases, yeah? Something like only with a noun, only on, only by, only in, all of these different phrases. So only with time, only on the weekends, only by chance or only in the summer. These kinds of introductory phrases, and you can follow that with inversion. Okay, oh, look at this. This is nice. All right. Only with her closest friend could she discuss her personal life. Okay, very close friend. So again, you've got only that introductory phrase and then the inversion in the main clause. Okay, so do I have the, yeah, right. So this is how you would normally say it. She could discuss her personal life only with her closest friend. Now you're just flipping it. Okay, good stuff. And how about one more? Oh wow, Vancouver in the spring, right? Only in spring do the cherry blossoms bloom. I sound like a poet. Right? This is some of my better poetry. I've written some very bad poetry for you guys in the past. This is, I think Marianne would be happy with this. I don't know. All right. So only, and then the phrase, only in spring do cherry blossoms bloom. Again, do being the helping verb. And if you haven't come to Vancouver in the spring, you should. You should come to Vancouver in the spring. Study with us and enjoy. Yeah. So this is just one other way of using only. And again, no, no, Marianne doesn't like my poetry. Yeah, she's hard to please. She's very, she's got a good critical eye when it comes to literature. Okay. So, time to get back to work. Okay, this is with only. I want to see if you guys can do this. Rewrite these sentences with inversion. Now again, I'm going to remove myself. Okay, I'm going to put the music back on, and I want you to rewrite these 3 sentences with inversion, but I want you to try to use only, and just to try to trick you, the third one may be a little bit more difficult than the other 2. Okay, let's see what you can do. Again, rewrite it, play with the order, and see if you can write me a sentence with emphasis using only. Okay? All right, so Bruno wants to ask one thing. Is inversion a way of more fancy thing? Yeah, right. So you're saying, like, is it fancy? Yes, Selma, that is my phone vibrating. I'm going to turn it off in a second. It's probably just more happy birthday wishes coming in. Yeah, very popular guy. So, but Bruno, yes, this is style. This is just fancy. You're showing your ability. Okay, so good question. And I'm going to pop off. I'll turn my buzzer off here, my ringer. Yeah, and you guys get to work and put your answers in the chat, and then we'll go over it together. All right? Get to work. All right, and we are back again. So let me pop out of here. Let's go back to the notes here. Lots of good stuff coming in on the chat. Lots of good answers coming in. And I don't seem to be able to stump you guys yet. All right, but we'll maybe get more complicated. I should also mention that when I said that was probably people wishing me a happy birthday on my phone, it was actually just my cell phone provider telling me that I was almost out of data. Yeah, so that it wasn't a birthday message. So that's all right. But they care about me and my data plan. Okay, so the first one, he has been recognized as an influential director only in the last few years. Let's look at that one. Lots of good answers came in for that. All right, and I think Selma, you got it. So let me put you up there. And you would take this whole section here, right? Cut it and put it at the top, like that. And say, only in the last few years has he been recognized. So only in the last few years has he been recognized. There you've got the helping verb, and then the subject, and then the main verb, and the rest of that main clause. This is good, okay? And a bunch of other people got that answer. That was really good. All right. And what else do we have here? Okay, so, yeah, Paul, only if he had more data would he be able to make a phone call. That's good. Okay. Number 2, tomorrow's class will be canceled only if it snows. All right, so let me see here. Most of you got it or got pretty close to it, right? So you can move this over here and start with only if it snows. Only if it snows. Then I saw a few little tiny mistakes here. Rizvana, I think, put this one in. Only if it snows, tomorrow's class will be canceled. But you have to remember to put that inverted word order here, okay? So you've got to, now this is another little tiny mistake that we didn't really talk about, but we can talk about it now, is I saw a couple people say this. Only if it snows will be tomorrow's class canceled. Now, the one thing you should keep in mind is that in cases of 2 helping verbs, now I didn't mention this because, we're talking about it now, it's fine, is that you only really want to invert one, okay? Now, because this is passive and it's future, really just invert the will and keep be with canceled over here, okay? And say only if it snows will tomorrow's class be canceled. Keep that passive voice together like that. And the future over here, okay? That's good. Good, good, good. And I'm seeing a bunch of why. Valerie's asking why is it a rule? Okay, can you specify on what is a rule so I can answer that question, Valerie? And I'll try to answer it. Okay, and the last one, I passed my exam by pure chance. Now, a few people got this. Kayo got it. Azim got it as well. What I was wondering if you would do is put the word only in there, right? So you'd say only by pure chance. Oops, I don't need that. And you would say, did I pass my exam? So you have to take that past tense off the main verb because, like any other question, you're going to put the past tense on the verb do there, right? So only by pure chance, and honestly, you could take that word pure away because pure chance is kind of emphatic as well, but only by chance or only by pure chance did I pass the exam. Good. Okay, let me see here. How are we doing for questions? All right. Yeah, okay, so this is good. All right, so how about, well, yeah, let's do a couple more. Now let's take it up a notch. Let's try to get even a little bit more difficult, and then I'm going to get you guys to do something for me, okay? So, again, let's get into the presentation here. All right, introductory phrases. There are other phrases that we can use at the beginning of a class or at the beginning of a sentence rather, not the beginning of a class, at the beginning of a sentence that shows kind of a negative meaning, okay? Phrases that mean never or almost never, okay? So let me show you what I'm talking about. Phrases with a negative meaning, like to mean never, under no circumstances means never, okay? At no time means never. Not for a moment, not for 1 second, not for $1 million, or not in a million years, right? These kinds of negative expressions here. Selma's asking, should we use only? Yes, the answer to that question, Selma, is you have to use only in order to use that, that inversion, right? To make it that kind of negative thing. All of these expressions sound just like Yara's mother, I guess. Right? So yeah, I should say that some of this inversion is really useful if you someday plan to have children, because you can definitely use these. Under no circumstances can you have a party when we are away on the weekend, right? This is very useful stuff. Good. All right, so all of these little phrases mean never. And we also have a couple phrases that mean kind of like 0%, okay? Meaning like not at all, in no way, meaning not at all. In no way am I suggesting that you have to use negative inversion, right? That's not what I'm saying, but you should, okay? All right, so Azim is asking the comma. Should you use it? I would say no, don't use a comma, Azim. Because the problem with the comma is that because of that inversion itself, you're making the main clause not dependent, but the main clause with inversion cannot stand alone, right? I can't say, for example, will we go to the store, unless it's a question, okay? So you're kind of changing the rules a little bit with inversion. And I wouldn't use a comma for any of those sentences that we saw before, okay? That's a really good question, and we'll probably see a couple more examples like that. Okay, so let's look at some examples here. At no time should you leave your bags unattended at the airport. It's good advice, right? So you've got that phrase there that means never, right? Never should you leave your bags unattended. And should you, there's your inversion there, okay? So again, this is, like I said, it's the same thing. You should never leave your bags unattended at the airport, okay? Let's look at another one. Uh-oh. In no way was the accident your fault, right? So it's saying the accident wasn't your fault in any way. Now really look at the difference between these two sentences, right? The fact that in the original, I'm saying the accident was not your fault, and I'm using any. But if you invert it with this structure, if you're using no over here, then you have to take the negative away. You can't say in no way wasn't the accident, okay? It's impossible. Under no circumstances can you use not with negative inversion. All right? Good. Teachers can use negative inversion a lot too. So if you guys are teachers, it's a good way to emphasize things. And a couple more things, okay? And then I'm going to get you guys to do a little bit more practice. 2 more expressions that we use with negative inversion. No sooner with than, and not only but. Okay? I'm going to go over this a little bit quickly, and then you guys are going to do a little bit more practice for me, okay? So, no sooner had we left the house than it started to pour rain. So you're using this expression no sooner at the beginning, then you got your inversion, and then than in there, okay? So no sooner had we left than it started to pour. So in this structure, you're saying no sooner, and then the first action, and then the second action that follows. So really what you're saying here is we left the house and it immediately started to pour. 2 things that almost happened at the same time, right? We leave the house immediately, of course, it starts to rain. So no sooner and then. And it may look familiar because it's very similar to what we did earlier with words like barely, scarcely, and hardly. So you could express the same thing by saying, barely had we left the house when it started to rain. You'll just notice that if you're using no sooner, you have to use that than, because that's basically what you use with the comparatives, right? Faster than, bigger than. So, question coming in from Yara. With the context of phrases, can we decide what specific preposition to use? Sure. Are you saying can we decide or how can we decide? Because can we decide? Yes. How can you decide? It really depends on the situation, right? It depends on, the easy answer is it depends on the preposition you need, I guess, right? So yes, if you say only in spring, right? You need in because spring is the season, or only on the weekend does Shaun play tennis, for example, right? So I'm saying only on the weekend. Okay, good question. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so one more thing. How are we doing for time here? Oh yeah, we've got time for you guys to practice this. One more. Not only but. Okay, so not only did he pass the test, he got the highest score. So not only at the beginning, and then the inversion, and then the rest of the sentence. Now here, you can put but, or you can leave it. It's kind of a style choice there, okay? Not only did he pass the test, but he got the highest score, or not only did he pass the test, he got the highest score in the class. Good for him. All right. So, how about this? Let's jump back into it because we're short on time. All right, I'm going to give you a few more sentences to invert, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of an assignment for the week, okay? All right, so 4 more sentences. I'm giving you 4 here. The first one's very important. You should never lend Mark money. All right, it's very important. 4 sentences. Invert them. Make them as emphatic as you can, okay? And again, I'm going to pop out for about 3 minutes or so, and then we'll go over them, and then you guys are going to be free, okay? Only after you've finished this exercise can you go home. Well, you guys are probably already home. Can I go home? Okay, so I'm out of here. Get to work. All right. Lots of good stuff coming in, of course. Let's go over some of these answers just because we are running out of time. Oh, let me get out of there. Unfortunately, we don't have time for the mistake of the week this week, which is perhaps, maybe that's the mistake of the week. All right, we'll come back to it next week. Let me make this a little bit smaller so they can all fit. A little bit bigger. All right, so yes, poor Mark, but you should never lend Mark money. Of course, Marianne said was the first one to say poor Mark, but was also the first one to put in the answer, which is correct, right? And you said, Marianne said, under no circumstances, right? Under no circumstances should you lend Mark money, was the answer. Now, not the only answer, just one possible answer, okay? Now, some of you said, rather than under no circumstances, some of you just said never, right? Never should you lend Mark money, which is also correct grammatically, okay? That's good. I think some of you said maybe in no way. I think Bruno, you said in no way should you lend Mark money. It's a little bit strange because there's only really one way to lend money, which is just to give the money. I know that you can mail it to him or you could go direct deposit or something, but I think under no circumstances or at no time are better than in no way in this case. Okay, so lots of people got it. Kayo, you got it. Marianne got it. Khalid, you said never, and that's fine too, as I said. Okay, never should you lend. Perfect. All right, so there was never any hard feelings between the contestants, between the two contestants. Okay, so a bunch of different answers coming in. Some of you just went with never, right? Never was there any hard feelings. You could also say at no time. Oops. No time were there any. At no time were there any hard feelings between the contestants. Okay? And that would be fine too. Or in no way would be fine too. In no way were there any hard feelings between the contestants. That's great. And again, I saw a lot of good answers coming in from you guys about that. Okay? Now, maybe number 3 and 4, a little bit, maybe a little bit more challenging. So we booked our flight and then immediately had to cancel our plans. All right? And so we were looking for those two actions that almost happened at the same time. And I would say this: no sooner had we booked our flight, right? And then you're going to use that than, we, and then you could just take that immediately out of there. You don't really need to do that. And you don't need that immediately because the idea of immediately is already there. So no sooner had we booked our flight, then we had to cancel our plans. How unfortunate, how sad. All right, but good for all of you guys that are putting the right answers in. And of course the last one. Shaun's students are tired and starving. I know, it's, so, oh, somebody missed it. Selma, what did you miss? Maybe the number 3? That's fine. So we'd say this: not only are Shaun's students tired, not only are Shaun's students tired, let's say, take all of this away, but they are starving. Okay, let's put this all down so you can see it together. Not only are Shaun's students tired, but they are starving, or as I said before, some people would just eliminate that, omit that and say, not only are Shaun's students tired, they are starving. I don't know. Raphael's not starving because he learned from last week and he made sure to eat a couple burgers before class because, well, he knows what can happen. All right. But this is good, guys. You guys did really well. So what I'm going to suggest is, and how about this? This is what I'm going to do. We always post the videos on the Facebook group afterwards. So when we post this video, underneath it, I'm going to give you 4 or 5, I'll say prompts to write sentences for me. So write one sentence with never, write one sentence with only, or only plus a prepositional phrase. I'll put all of that on the Facebook group, and I would like you guys to try to write your own strong statements and put them in the chat for the Facebook group under this post, okay? So this is going to be kind of your homework, is to actually use these types of structures, all right? Because of course, taking a sentence that I write and changing it around is good, but it's obviously better and more useful to write your own sentences with this emphatic, strong, inverted order. All right. So, sadly, now it's time to say goodbye. All right. I've got birthday cake to eat. All right. Mohammed says that the class is really hard. Yes, it is quite. This is quite a more advanced structure that we're looking at today, for sure. So don't worry if it's too hard. What I suggest is that you keep watching Mark's class, keep coming to my class as well, challenge yourself. And obviously here, let me pop out here. Let's go big. So, thanks for coming, obviously. I'm happy to see you. Highlight of the week, right? Best birthday ever. Keep watching Mark's class, 9 o'clock on Wednesdays, our time in Vancouver. And of course, I'm sure they've been saying it in the chat that we're here in Vancouver at the Canadian College of English Language. So we come out every Wednesday to you. Keep watching Mark, keep watching me. Join us on Facebook if you haven't already, right, at Learn English on Facebook. And keep watching the videos on YouTube. And keep the questions coming, right, on the Facebook group. Lots of really good questions coming to us. And keep pushing yourself to go beyond that functional, grammatically correct language, okay? Don't shy away from mistakes. Make lots of terrible mistakes, because that's how you learn, okay? So, oh, there's a little cake in there. Is that cake from Valerie? Nice. Okay. So I'm off. Thanks for coming again. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you here next week. Okay, guys? Until then, bye-bye.